Hey y'all, my name is Kent Carter and I'm one of the 10th grade guys small group leaders, and I'm just so excited to talk to you today about the idea of unity. Have you ever heard the saying that opposites attract? While this may be true in some cases, it doesn't always hold water in real life. In fact, most of the time we tend to gravitate towards people who already see the world like we do. We make friends with people who have the same hobbies as us, who like the same shows as us, or who laugh at the same things we do. Shared interests or perspectives lead to connection, and connection makes us feel comfortable. And there's nothing wrong with this, really. It's not a sin to be friends with people you naturally like. But as Christians, there is one big problem with this method for building relationships. The church is filled with people who are nothing like you. At Preston Trail, at PTSM, even in your own home groups, you will meet, and probably already have met, people who have different thoughts, perspectives, and ideas about the way things should be done and the way life should be lived. Some people will act differently than you. Their personality will rub you the wrong way. Some people in the church will just simply frustrate and annoy you. That's just being real. And if you spread your net beyond just the church or Christians and you look at the world around us, you will see even more of this. Spend a few minutes on social media or listening to the news, and you may notice our world feels more divided than ever. In such a polarized world, a polarized church, and if we're being real, maybe even a polarized home group, unity can feel out of reach. Maybe this makes you wonder, is unity even possible? Should it even be something we need to strive for? Or maybe it can also make you wonder, is there anything I can do to create unity where there is none? And I say we talk about that. Last week, we looked at how Jesus used the tradition of the Passover meal to help his followers remember all he had done for them. After Jesus and the disciples finished their meal together, they went to the Garden of Gethsemane. And that's a place you can actually visit in Israel today. I actually got to go and see it myself. And in this garden, the Garden of Gethsemane, right before he was going to be arrested, beaten, and killed, Jesus decided to pray. Think about that. If you knew you were about to die, you were taking some of your final moments to pray, what would you pray for? Really think about that for just a moment. My guess is that whatever you pray for is incredibly important to you. And thankfully, we know exactly what Jesus prayed for in a moment just like that. Exactly what is so important to him. John, one of Jesus' friends, recorded Jesus' final prayers in John chapter 17, verses 20 through 23. In his last moments of freedom, Jesus told God this: I am praying not only for these disciples, but also for all who will ever believe in me through their message. I pray that they will all be one, just as you and I are one. As you are in me, Father, and I am in you, and may they be in us, so that the world may believe you sent me. I have given them the glory you gave me, so they may be as one as we are one. I am in them, and you are in me. May they experience such perfect unity that the world will know that you sent me and that you love them as much as you love me. Did y'all see that? Jesus prayed for us, for you and me today specifically, not the disciples then, but us too. And he asked God to help us be united. So it seems pretty clear to me that two of the most important things in the entire world to Jesus are you and me and the unity between us, all of us. But why unity? Maybe you already know that Jesus loves you, and so you can pretty easily understand why he'd pray for you in this important moment. But why is he praying for your unity with the guy or girl in your home group that just won't stop annoying you? Well, I have a story from my life that might help you see a bit more clearly why Jesus would pray for this. When I went to college, I knew absolutely nobody there. I was going to be living in a dorm with 20 complete strangers. And honestly, the first couple weeks getting to know everyone was really great. I began to find my people in this new place. Friends who had the same nerdy habits as me, who listened to the same kind of music that I liked, and who saw the world in the same way that I did. I was having a wonderful time just becoming friends with everyone. It was really exciting. except for one guy. John was another freshman, just like me, except unlike me, John was so annoyingly positive. John was the kind of guy that was always smiling when he talked with you. He maintained eye contact the entire conversation, and he laughed annoyingly loud at any joke that someone would make. I feel a little embarrassed sharing this with y'all now because it seems all positive, but it really annoyed me so much. I just couldn't believe that he was as genuine as he appeared because I couldn't imagine myself being that friendly or sincere. So I assumed that he was faking all of it, and that led me to be annoyed by just his very presence in the room. I don't think I was ever openly rude or mean to John, but I did try to avoid him whenever possible. And in my heart, I grew to resent him. And honestly, guys, things probably would have stayed just like that, except for one detail. John and I were both Christians, and John knew that, and he knew that Jesus had prayed this prayer for us, that all Christians, including him and me, would be united. So John, despite my best efforts, worked to be my friend. He took time to talk with me and really listen, to find common interests that weren't immediately apparent, and to help me navigate college life like a good friend does. And over time, he wore me down, and I began to see that he was genuinely just a good dude with a lot of positivity, and we became friends. John chose unity while I chose comfortability, and I cannot express to you how grateful I am that he did. Over the years, John and I became some of the closest friends that I've ever had in my life, and still to this day, we're friends. When I got engaged, John was one of the first people I told. When I struggled to understand what God was doing in my life, John was there to listen and challenge me. When my dad was diagnosed with cancer, John came to grieve with me. John's friendship has made my life better. And I only get to count him as a friend because he chose to take Jesus at his word. John sought to bring unity where there was disunity. He chose to be my friend even when I didn't want to be his. He chose to love me like Jesus loves me. I hope you can see what I see in John's story here, and that is the power of unity, especially unity between Christians. Unity just means being for each other, and John, from the very beginning, chose to be for me. And because of that choice, I gained a friend who has been there to support me in the best and the worst times of my life. But don't hear John's story and think that unity is easy. I didn't make it easy for him. Unity does not mean that we agree on everything all of the time. Differences and diversity will always create friction, but if we let them, they can also make us stronger. In unity, we can see and acknowledge our differences and still choose to be for one another. And when we do that, the world around us, a world that is filled with so much disunity, will start to take notice and start to see this Jesus that unites all of us. So now, the kind of final question becomes, how do we become more unified? It's good to talk about it, but how do we do that? It can feel impossible sometimes. But as we see from Jesus' prayer, it is our job as followers of him to learn how to embrace our differences and stay united. I think our starting point for unity as Christians is always the same. It's our love for Jesus. This one point of commonality, when we really think about it, it makes all the other differences in our lives seem so small. John knew this, and it's the starting point for my friendship with him. But guys, guess whose responsibility it is to promote and protect unity in your home groups? It's not the responsibility of your group leaders or the guy or girl sitting next to you. It's yours, and it's mine. We are each individually responsible for our contribution to the unity of the church. Unity begins with you. And oftentimes, for unity to work and get the attention of those around us, you'll have to make the first move on your own. It doesn't happen passively or by accident. If I'm honest, if John hadn't been reaching out to me, taking those active steps, I'm not sure I ever would have. And my life would be worse for that because I wouldn't have had him as a friend. Now think of all that God can do in the lives of those around you and me if we all just choose to be a little more like my friend John and choose unity over comfortability. So much is riding on this idea, guys. I think that's why Jesus prayed for it near the end of his life. He knew how difficult it would be for us, and it is difficult. He knew that we'd have a million excuses why we shouldn't love and treat others well. He knew that our tendency would always be to let our differences divide us, but if we are going to accomplish the mission Jesus gave us, we must have unity. Soon after Jesus left Earth, the early church started changing the entire world. It's crazy if you look into it. No one had ever seen people who were so different stand together so well. The unity of the early church changed the first century world, which allowed the message of Jesus to change the entire globe. And I believe it can do the same for us today in our world and age. But it starts with you. If each of us choose today to pursue unity and love with each other and the people in our home groups, I know that God will change the world with Jesus' message through us. That's so incredible. Guys, in just a moment, y'all will be turning to discussion in your home groups. And as you do, I challenge you to be real and to honestly think about how you can be an active creator of unity with those around you, the specific people in your home group. Choose to see what unites you, Jesus, as greater than anything that could divide you.
Hey there, home groups. Thanks for joining us today. Before we send you to discuss with your groups, we wanted to remind you about a few things that are coming up in PTSO. First, we've got something really exciting to share. We have a high school only mission trip this summer. It's the South Texas Serve Trip. It's gonna be in mid-July. We'll be headed south to the Rio Grande Valley with an opportunity to help with a house construction project for a family in a high poverty area. No building, painting, hammering experience required at all. If you and or your parents would like to hear more information about this trip, we're having some informational meetings, some opportunities to join us on Sunday, April 23rd during both the 9:15 or 11 o'clock services. Join us to hear more about it. And due to a limited number of spots on this trip, there is an application process for the trip. You can find it at prestontrail.org/events. And secondly, get excited for our next block party coming up in May. We are gonna have a field day. We are gonna have a bunch of outdoor games and competitions. It's gonna be a whole lot of fun. So start thinking about who you can invite to join you. Thank you again for being here. All right, guys, enjoy your group and we'll see you next week. Bye, guys. Hey there, home groups. Before we send you, I'm sorry, I got excited.